Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with lies they eat like comfort food, to disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims? Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace, but ilkas and plots and shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible, holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make, and folks really feel ashamed expressing content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes, it's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road, the reason stay strapped. We're logic and fast, that's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact, help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road, the reason.
The Reason, a Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. This is Paul Sheehan, and with me today is
I'm David Tamayo. I better say it so people say correctly, you know.
Absolutely.
Tamayo.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Oh, I've been called everything.
You say tomato, I say tomato. Wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. But in either case, we're going to have a great guest on today. We're going to be covering the issue of the gentleman who was kicked out of the city council meeting in Florida. And I want to make sure that we get to that, but we have some news items first we want to spend a little time talking about. And I want to talk first off about this young lady down in Oklahoma. I don't even know how you pronounce this, but I think it's E-N-I-D is how it's spelled. Enid? I don't know. Oklahoma. Shawana Hammond. She's a Pastafarian, and she just had her picture taken for a driver's license with a spaghetti strainer on her head. Yes.
Is she the first one in the U.S. to do that? I know they've done it in Europe and other places.
Well, it's funny you mention that. We got a picture of her I'd like to go to, and you know, we'll get a picture of her driver's license, and then the answer to your question is she's not the only person that's ever done this. She also has...
Probably the first one in Oklahoma, though.
Yeah, probably. But then Oklahoma's one of these places. There she is there. Oklahoma's one of these places where effectively that they have some very bizarre religious practices in Oklahoma. This is also one of the places where Scientology is really entrenched in Narconon, and the state fired employees investigating Scientology abuses, and there's a huge legal battle going on. So it's no surprise.
So as long as there's religion, it doesn't matter if it's
religion, it's okay. You can commit any abuse you want. You can wear a spaghetti strainer on your head.
And that's the evidence right there.
That's the evidence, man. Spaghetti strainer is evidence. But she's not to be outdone.
Well, hold on. I want to tell her, if she's watching, that we are brother and sister in religion. I'd like to point out my tie that I wear everywhere. This is the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Spaghetti Monster.
My deity. Now, what happens if people don't?
If you speak out against the Flying Spaghetti Monster, yes, or if you're in a apostate, get it? Apostate. Then he will reach out with his noodly appendages and strike you down, and he will burn forever in a lake of hot spaghetti sauce.
Hot spaghetti sauce.
And meatballs shall rain from the sky with hot chili peppers inside and burn you.
If that doesn't make you afraid, I don't know what else could.
And then you know what? The other side of it is he's also a loving and kind deity.
I've been touched by his noodleness.
You've been touched by his noodleness, and you shall eat from his abundance of delicious, an abundant
pasta.
Abundant pasta. Yeah.
Can't go wrong with pasta.
Absolutely. But as I said, he's not to be outdone. We have a city council member from Connecticut by the name of Christopher Schaefer, who is a Pastafarian minister, and we got a great picture of him being sworn into political office with his spaghetti strainer on his head.
Wow. Yeah. We're making progress.
We're absolutely making progress.
The Christians, who are the majority in this country, should be nervous that before they know it, the Pastafarians, oh, there it is.
Well,
this is beautiful.
We've just had these wonderful rulings by our Supreme Court that has said that you can have religion and you can have politics mixing.
You know how every empire has a period of decline? Yeah. I think we're pretty much in a big slide down.
But at least we're doing it with a sense of humor.
Yes.
An Italian taste, my friends.
It's all Italian taste.
So you got some news for us too.
Yes, I actually like to read this a little bit because this came from the Huffington Post, and I don't know if you know this, but Dr. Bill Nye, how does it sound, the science president? You know, he was asked in a TV show recently called Start Talk radio program if he would run for president. And his answer was, well, yes, I'm going to run, and in fact, I've already have picked Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and now we're both picking our cabinet. And in the selection of the cabinet, they picked Eugene Merman, who's a comedian, and also former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino.
Okay.
So now to put it in context, and just so you know, they are, I guess, the first to do this because Hillary Clinton hasn't announced anything. She's been kind of playing. And then we have, you know, there's someone that we really would love to see run, Marco Rubio. Imagine, you know, wouldn't that be great having him run? This morning I was watching an interview on TV, and he said that he's still making up his mind as to whether he should run or not. So, you know, what more? Now, really, seriously, they're obviously joking. They're obviously joking.
Right.
But imagine if we had smart people, if we had people in Congress that actually knew science.
I think it's a crime that they're only joking. And I mean that sincerely. I mean, I know they're joking, but I've had enough of the comedy that is our politics. And
well, comedy kills in that sense.
Because, comedy does kill. And, you know, it's funny, I'm sitting there, I was looking at this meme somebody put up on the internet, and they're quoting the Bible where, you know, it says, be not these types of hypocrites that go out and kneel in public, you know, and then there's all these, you know, politicians kneeling in front of the Capitol building.
In the White House, right there with the cameras.
With the cameras, and
I noticed they did put little pads.
Yes, yes.
Let's not be too Jesus about it.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, where's the suffering? And
yeah.
It's absurd. But the reality is, and I'm not saying that everyone that watches the show agrees with me, and I'm not asking you to, but I absolutely detest when I hear people say that Obama is a secret atheist, and, you know, the politician A is a secret atheist. You know, when you're an atheist is when you say you're an atheist. Mm-hmm. When you go to churches, when you say that you're not an atheist, or you go out, I want to start hearing politicians not afraid to say it, or that they're apolitical when it comes to religion, and that they just don't care, and it's not going to be a part of their campaign, that maybe they are, but they're not going to make that public. You know, that's their private business. And I actually think when Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye, the science guy, said this, I think you broke a lot of hearts when you also followed it up with it being a joke. Because in truth, I'd vote for you in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, and I think
I would campaign. I would go out and actively campaign.
Absolutely, actively campaign. You know, maybe we should just maybe Road to Reason should start a campaign for Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson to retract their joke statement and actually take a stab at it. I want to see, if you really want, Bill Nye, if you really want to see a scientific understanding of who might vote for you, do it. Run. Go for it, baby. You know,
it might save this country. I mean, look in the world. Look at global warming, and we're supposed to be leading there, and we're leading by not leading.
Exactly. It's like enough with the jokes. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's get the answer to the question everybody keeps asking: is would somebody vote for an atheist or scientific-based president? Let's answer that question and find out what the true statistics are.
Now, keep in mind that our founding fathers, Jefferson, Madison, Franklin, Washington, they were all politicians, but they all were up to date, up to the latest in the scientific information of the day. Mm-hmm. Who in Congress today can say that? Just about no one.
Yeah.
You know, it's all magic, and it's all innuendo, and it's all politics, and it's all money, and it's all selfishness. You know, when they go to Congress, well, you know, Congress is the least effective Congress ever because they're there, number 1, for themselves, number 2 for themselves, number 3 for themselves. And I mean, I think that's fairly new. But we need to definitely. I think we should push for that.
I think we should. In fact. You know, you and I, after the show, ought to come up with some type of public statement and just say, guys, it's not a joke. You know, what you offered people when with this comment is serious business. We need people that are science-based not to take this as a joke and to take a real stab at it. Why not? And where's the harm in finding out where people really would vote?
It would teach, I think, a lot of people that currently are so turned off by the political process might encourage them to get involved and teach them something about how broken we are and maybe encourage them to help fix it.
I totally agree. I mean, I know for one, I vote for politicians. Sometimes I don't vote. I'm honest about that. I don't believe sometimes there's a choice between a Mussolini and a Hitler. There are other times where there does appear to be enough differences between the two candidates that I am inspired to vote.
And how often are you surprised and sad afterwards when, after a while, you realize that, actually they're all kind of the same anyway.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is like, okay, what are they different on? Marginal issues. Okay, I'm not going to promote the Second Amendment here. That's a big issue for me. I hate the idea that I have to vote for somebody because I think they're protecting the Second Amendment, but then they're anti-choice or they're pro-war or they hate immigrants. I don't know what Bill Nye's and Neil deGrasse Tyson's position on that issue is, but I can tell you they represent like 99% of what I support. So,
well, not only that, they are smart people.
They are smart.
And to me, more important than anything, electing people to Congress that actually are smart, that are thinkers, that can look at a problem from different angles and not just be partisan about it or not just be emotional about it. To me, that's the really art of governing. Something we lack a lot.
I agree. And I'll say that, and I know you got more news to get on to. I will say though that I'm not going to go. Our show is fairly nonpartisan, which is funny because we have to talk about some partisan stuff later.
Well, we pick either side.
Pick either side. But for me personally, Republican or Democrat, things turned really south in this country when you talk about smart people when Reagan ran. This was an actor. This became the first time where we had a personality versus a politician running our White House. This was not a man who was versed in politics the same way, say, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, anyone else prior to him. He was voted for because
he was a charming guy.
He was a charming guy.
Yeah.
And of his movie history and the charisma of him. So we need to get our politics back on track with what affects people versus who's the most popular, good-looking, or charismatic individual. And I totally. Well,
and you look at the politicians, especially the younger ones that haven't been in politics for too long. They sort of the ones walking in. The ones that tend to do better are the good-looking ones.
Yeah.
The ones that look like movie stars. The ones that are, that bring people. Oh, I'll vote for this woman or this guy because they're good-looking and nothing else. And that's silly. Because there's no guarantee that because someone is good looking, except in myself, that they have brains. Also very humble in case you hadn't noticed.
I can tell.
All right, well, should we go with it? I have a couple of, no more news, but a couple of announcements. You do have another?
No, I'm done with the news. Why don't you do your announcement?
Okay, so just a couple of things. One is, I got to do a shameless, selfish plug for Hispanic American Free Thinkers. I'm president of that nonprofit organization.
And before you do, if you're an atheist and you're in the local area and you want to plug something, approach us for on-air approval. We'll look it over and go for it.
Part of what we're trying to do here is communicate, bring in some information about the community. So if you have community announcements or events that are coming up, it doesn't have to be local to the Washington, D.C. area. It could be national events kind of thing. But Hispanic American Free Thinkers, on September 13th, coming up, Saturday, we're having our 4th potluck picnic. So you're all welcome. We are going to be having a magic show with one of the students that have free, we tutor students and that kind of stuff. So we'll have a student there doing a magic show, and it'll be a lot of food, a lot of activities. It should be a great day. Second announcement is the Humanistas Seculares de Puerto Rico. So this is a group that is very active, very new, relatively new. This is their 2nd annual meeting, and they're very, very active in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico is one of these U.S. territories where if you think that Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and some of the southern states are very religious, or some pockets in the north that are very religious, nothing compared to how things are in Puerto Rico. Things are really desperate there. But This group is doing a lot of inroads. There are a couple of other groups, but this is sort of the main group there. Humanistas, they're the local humanist group. They're having their second annual meeting on the 4th of October at 10 a.m. at the Colegio de Abogados, the Lawyers College. So if you're in Puerto Rico, great weather, great stuff. The website for Hispanic American Freethinkers is www.hafree.org, HAFRE.org, and for the humanist is www.humanistaspr.org. So I hope that you can go there. And one more, in Puerto Rico for next year, a year from now, American Atheist is having a regional conference, and gonna have big speakers, all kinds of activities going on there. It's a year from this month. So you start saving your money, and listen, Puerto Rico, I hear they have good rum there. I'm going to go there and find out for myself, just to make sure that I'm not talking, you know.
You need to go ahead and make sure for the rest of us it's safe. Now, your event, you're having food, right?
Say it again?
At your event, you're having food.
Yes, all events have food. Without, events with no food are no events. Come on. Okay. So food, good talk,
we're not
good
talking
company.
about bags of like dried, fried plantains. We're talking about good food.
What's wrong with fried plantains?
Bags of dried.
Okay. No. It's we are having another group that I'm not. They don't. That this group is another secular group that is not allowed. It's not very public, but they're coming. Also, we've had them as guests in this show before, but for some reasons that become apparent in the future, they don't want. They announce that they're coming in a very private way.
Okay. Well, what else you got for me?
I think that's about it. I already bragged about my tie, so I got nothing left.
Well, in a moment we're going to go to our break, do our public service announcements, but I do want to let the audience know we are having a video problem connection with today's guest. What I'm going to do is, while we're on our break, I'm going to go in, have our technical director pull up his still image, and we're going to call him back and just do his audio and connect to a still image. We do apologize about not having a direct video feed. We're running into an unbelievable amount of technical issues today.
Did you pray? Did you pray to my God today? That was the problem.
The problem is I didn't.
Yeah, that's it.
I did not offer up.
Make an offering. I'll take that offering, by the way. I'll go take it to his noodleness.
Take it to his noodleness? All right.
In case you have that.
Well, let's go to our break, and then I can step in there real quick, take care of a couple things. When we come back, we should have our guest on, and we'll have a little teaser and then our guest.
Okay.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century, or there'll be hell to pay.
At NASA right now, scientists and engineers are working every day to help humans learn how to better care for our home, so that we never have to leave. NASA has a fleet of satellites around the planet that keeps track of climate change and studies how humans are affecting the planet. NASA has a ton of geniuses, and all of them are working for a future that has a healthy Earth in it. Like when NASA helped find the hole in our ozone layer so we could fix it before the problem got out of control. NASA is doing its part. We have to do ours. This is our home. To learn more about how NASA is keeping an eye on Earth, visit www.nasa.gov/Earth.
When I was younger, I didn't want to admit I had a serious disease. Because of my diabetes, I lost the sight in my left eye. Misconceptions continue to surround this monster public health issue. But the simple truth is, diabetes can often be prevented and complications avoided. You're not alone. Understand the realities of diabetes and know that you can manage it and lead a full, active life.
There's an alarming trend in the world today. Everywhere you go, people are saying that cinema is dead. But cinema is not dead. My name is Count Simon Gauntley, and on my television program, Count Gauntley's Horrors from the Public Domain, I make it my mission to resurrect forgotten film classics. I promise to dredge the sewers and ford the stagnant streams of film history to ensure that no film is truly lost to the ages. Count Gauntley and FPA, keeping cinema alive! Alive! Alive!
Well, even though Joseph's been gone 18 months, we've made the decision to keep all his things as they were when he was here last. I finally just packed his toothbrush away like 6 months ago. It had been sitting on the counter in the bathroom, and I was cleaning the bathroom one day, and I just thought, okay, it's time to put the toothbrush in the medicine cabinet.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Well, we're back, and we're ready for our guest, but I want to do a little intro. Now, each week, Road to Reason is trying to reincorporate something we started early on, which are little fun tidbits to kind of excite the audience. And this week...
Fortunately, there's plenty to pick from those, right?
Absolutely. And if anybody's got a great idea, we would love to hear it too. But this week we are going to bring back an original called Religious Hate Crimes, Intolerance, and Abuses, because I don't think that there's anything that describes more than what our guest went through than this. And so let's just go to that.
Kill them, slay them, execute them. Foul devil.
The Bible defines what's hate.
And with that, we are going to be talking today with Joseph Richardson, who was actually driven out of a city council meeting because he refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to introduce Richard now. Richard, welcome to Road to Reason, A Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century.
Thank you. It's Joseph.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened, a little bit about you first, and David has some questions.
Yeah, let's start with you. How long have you been an activist, and is this something that you planned, or you were just sitting there and this happened, and then we'll describe a little bit what happened.
Yeah, well, it's been about I don't know, 4 to 6 months, I think, just that I've been working with the Central Florida Free Thought community, and when I first got involved, I got asked if I wanted to help out with the invocation project that they were working on. That is, about the Greece decision, and so the community here wanted to try to get involved with those invocations and do secular invocations at local government meetings. And so, I kind of got involved in that in a different way than what happened here. But we were collecting information about the meetings and just compiling it into a document so that we would have a record of what kinds of invocations were being given at meetings around the area. This particular situation happened in my town. I am a Winter Garden resident, and I just started going to the meetings, because this was what I was working on. I had not, I had decided a long time ago that I had issues with the Pledge of Allegiance, and so when I started going to these meetings, I thought, this is finally the time, because I don't have a chance very often to not stand up for the pledge. So the very first meeting I went to, I was pretty nervous about it, but I sat through the invocation, and sat through the pledge, and nobody said anything to me. And then I went to another meeting and another meeting. I ended up going to 4 or 5 meetings, sitting through everything, and nobody said a word to me. And then a week ago Thursday, I was sitting there, and that's when the mayor called me out.
So this was this a situation where they ever communicated to you prior to this that they were having problems? Did you pick up on any negativity from them? Or was this completely out of the blue?
For me, it was completely out of the blue. Nobody had said anything to me during or after the meetings, and I just, I recorded the invocations while I was there for this project. A couple of times I stayed longer to see what was going on, but nobody said anything to me. And I know that video, it looks like a setup because I'm sitting right in the front row, and so it's really obvious to the commissioners that I was not standing. But I just don't have a very good quality cell phone camera.
So before we continue, perhaps we should describe a little bit what exactly took place. A description.
We also have the clip too. So
okay, are we going to be watching the clip?
Let's describe it and then we'll show it.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, now I just wanted to make sure that we did have the clip because it's amazing. I think it's as you said, you're a little nervous because it takes some courage to stand up to the mayor and the chief of police. To the police, to all these authorities that can, in theory, make your life miserable one way or another.
Yeah, and I was nervous the first time, but by the time it got to the 4th or 5th time, I thought that they understood that it was within my rights to sit down for the pledge, and so I thought they were just going to let it go. By the time I got there last Thursday, I was treating it as standard operating procedure. I didn't expect anything. So.
Now, how long have you been a non-believer? How long have you been a humanist, a free thinker, however you refer to yourself?
It's only been about 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
Wow, late bloomer.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the clip because I actually have a couple observations I made, and I'd like to talk to you about them.
Sure.
A couple.
Can I bow your head? Wait for everyone to rise.
Sorry, are you waiting for me?
Yes, sir.
I don't have to.
Well, would please appreciate you would rise, or you may leave the room. Please do the prayer or the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
I don't believe I have to do that. Thank you.
I believe you have to prayer, or would you willfully do the pledge of allegiance? Go ahead, sir.
You can bow your heads with me, please. Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight. We thank you for the gift of life, the gift of friendship, and the gift of community. We ask that you be with us today as we make decisions that guide our city for the future. We ask that you bless all of our employees and our residents and our businesses in the city of Winter Garden. And we know that any time in our lives where we experience distress, it's just your way of bringing us closer to you. And we thank you for allowing us to be in a country where we're free to believe and think and pray that we can and be together here in public. And we ask this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Now, sir, please stand while we do the pledge. You don't have to pledge, but please stand. Children have to in school too.
Yes, and they don't have to either.
For our country,
I understand, sir.
You have one of two choices, sir. You may please stand for the pledge. You don't have to say it, but please stand.
I don't have to do that.
Okay.
Stand up, man.
Asking to either stand or please escort him out until we get to the pledge. Yes, it's just not fair to our troops and people overseas, sir.
I say,
okay.
So I'm
stand or leave?
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
First of all, I want to extend my gratitude to you as a member of our community and as a citizen who took a courageous stance. That is something not everyone does. It takes a great deal of moral standing to defend your position, which you did, I think, very eloquently and respectfully. So my hat off to you, sir.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to say, "Hey, don't tase me, man! Don't tase me," because for a second there, I thought, you know how cops nowadays, they got the taser ready to go. So.
Yeah. No, I didn't know what to say. Like I said, I wasn't expecting any of that. I sat through 4 or 5 previous meetings, and I was just in shock. So
some observations.
Well, the first I had was. He seems to be speaking for our troops. He seems to be speaking, for other Americans as to what's fair and what isn't.
What is respectful and what is not respectful.
And what is not. Were you trying to be disrespectful?
No, I wasn't. In fact, if I could jump ahead for just a moment, just 2 days ago, they had another meeting in which they clarified the situation, and I spoke at that meeting. And one of the things that I said at that time was that I do respect our country and our military and the sacrifices that they've made, but I also reserve the right to show that respect in ways that I choose and not in ways that are mandated by legislature, the legislator, or by peer pressure.
That does beg the question, what is disrespect and how do you measure it, and can you legislate it, and does respect trump civil rights and the Bill of Rights? Can you, how can, and this is a country where you can burn the flag, and it's okay to burn the flag, but you have to stand for, so did they come back and change their position when you met with them, or?
They did. I didn't actually meet with them, but the meeting 2 days ago on Friday, they offered 3 resolutions. One was to have the invocations, but open them up. You saw in the video there that a commissioner gave the invocation, and that's what usually happened at the meetings. So one resolution was to open it up, like the Supreme Court said in Greece. One was to replace the invocations with moment of silence, and in both of those cases, it would include the pledge. And the third option was to get rid of the invocation and the pledge entirely. They opted to go with the second option, which was the moment of silence and the pledge. And all of the resolutions, the first 2 resolutions contained explicit language saying that people did not have to stand up or participate in either the pledge or the invocation or moment of silence.
So they're legalizing what's already legal?
Yeah, they're making it explicit, which is okay.
Well, and to be more direct, your actions by being an observer, and in this case a participant, made policy change, which I think is
exactly what we want.
What we want.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the level of respect that we're supposed to have for our Constitution, is to stand up for our rights and have equality.
So
I do
to clarify on the Pledge of Allegiance, why should or should we not stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, I think it's entirely up to each individual. Of course, a lot of people have issues with under God part of the pledge, which was only added in 1954, and I have some issue with that as well. But I think my bigger issue is simply that I would like to choose the way that I want to show respect, and it doesn't always have to be with the pledge. I would be willing to stand up for the pledge, sometimes maybe even say it, but to have it as something that is basically required, either by legislation or by peer pressure, that rubs me the wrong way. So
I think it does open the door to our politicians mandating citizens' behavior. In other words, they can corral somebody to take a particular political action or intimidate them not to take a particular political action. And if they can literally exercise control over your body as to what you do and in the political halls of our country, in other words, they can pretty much control politics as the politician instead of respecting the will of the people. And I note that the Supreme Court has ruled on this. This was the West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett. If there is any fixed star in our constitutional constellation, it is that no official, high or petty, can prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion, or force citizens to confess by word or action their faith therein. It sounds to me like that is a perfect example of what you went through.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that quote. I was going to mention it. I don't have it at hand, so I wouldn't have been able to give the exact quote. But it is a beautiful quote from that decision, and that's the decision I was referring to from 70 years ago.
So what do you recommend for other people in other cities? I mean, we know this goes on in hundreds, if not thousands, of places in the United States. Do you recommend, the same process that you followed, or to be more aggressive, less aggressive, or to play by ear? Or now that you're sort of the expert on this, since in a very short period of time you've been able to change policy, you've been able to make an effect, and certainly you've become somewhat of a star in the internet because your video went viral.
Well, I'm not sure I have any particular recommendations. I think each situation is different. I mean, this was an accidental thing. I did not intend for it to go this way. I was working, the city was actually working with me to change the invocations. We had some discussions, and they were planning on having a resolution to change how the invocations were handled when this happened. I'm not sure. It really depends on your situation. Some people can't afford to be too aggressive and to risk the ire of their local government. It's just individual, I guess.
Well, I had a question for you now. I actually have a number of questions for you still here, but I want to talk a little bit about the police versus the city council. I had a sense watching this that the police were essentially acting as the pit bull of the city council. It almost is like you got two branches of government trampling on your rights here. One is, does the city council have the authority to tell you to stand? And B, do the police have the right to enforce the will of the city council if it is in fact not a law that they're trained in enforcing? And have you or the folks at the I forgot the name here. It's a Central
Florida Free Thought Community.
Yeah, Florida Free Thought Community. Have you all talked about hitting this from a two-pronged approach in the future, which is putting the police department on notice as well as the city council on notice?
No, we haven't talked about that. I don't know. To answer your first question is I don't know. I would have to ask a lawyer about that. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about that.
What did you think when this officer was standing up in front of you? I have to tell you, I would be very, very nervous. I was wondering exactly what was going through your head.
I was very nervous, and my head was just spinning. I didn't have any discernible thoughts at the time. I was starting to almost shut down because I was so shocked at what was going on. I mean, you could tell when I first addressed the mayor. I was able to speak, and by the time the police chief came and stood in front of me, I almost couldn't talk to him because I was just so flustered. And that's
the kind of thing that they bank on. They bank on people being intimidated by these people that have a lot of power and to shut you down in that respect. I mean, if anyone else would have been intimidated and might have just given up and stood up, at the moment of truth.
Well, this is what I think too, and Joseph, I'm sure you have your opinion on this, but as an observer, to me, this is the difference between a citizen having honest dialogue with city council members and the threat of the use of force to silence a citizen. It's like watching this, the only thing that silenced you was intimidation.
Yeah. Well, notice they sent the chief of police. They didn't send another citizen. They didn't send the secretary to escort you out, or they didn't, any other one. They sent the highest police power they could find in the room.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. That's just who the mayor chose at the time. So.
Well, now I would also, one of the other observations I had watching this, and you have been to these council meetings before, but in the observation, he talks about asking you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, but what does he do next? They go into a prayer, a full-fledged, Christianized prayer.
Yeah, well, that was the normal order of activities there. They would do the invocation, and then they would do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then get on with business. So that wasn't unusual. It was only unusual that he stopped at the invocation to point me out and ask me to stand. And as you saw, he let it go for the invocation part, but he didn't want to let it go for the pledge. So, and I'd like to say, that I have no other complaints against the mayor. There's nothing. I enjoy living in Winter Garden. I think that in general the city government has done a great job of running the city. I don't know exactly what caused him to really pick me out that night, but maybe he was just having a bad day or something, and it just caught his attention. So I just want to say that.
It really goes to show that just because a government is good, that there's no room for improvement, and that you have to be vigilant. Even if you're satisfied with everything else that they're doing, as a citizen, it's our job to make sure that we keep our politicians honest and that we don't let the separation of church and state creep in, creeping into our government. I do have another question for you. What have people in general? How have they treated you after this? Have you received a lot of feedback, positive, negative? This story has been in many newspapers, and I'm sure it caught the eye of the 37,000 people that live in Winter Gardens. Have you gotten any phone calls, messages? What has been the reaction of people in general?
Yeah, I actually haven't gotten any phone calls or messages, but people that I've talked to, my friends, my relatives, it's quite a variety of reactions. Some people are understanding. Some people want to know why I didn't stand for the pledge and what all's going on. And even when I try to explain it to them, there's a disconnect there. They still have a difficult time understanding why I did what I did. And it's unfortunate in a sense that the pledge thing got caught up in this, because it's kind of muddied the waters between the pledge and the invocation issues. They're really two separate things, but that's what happened.
I think still points out that patriotism can't be legislated, and that respect can't be legislated or that you have the freedom. I mean, I've spoken to some soldiers that have been, half my family's in the military, and most of them have been abroad, and they tell you, we're there fighting for your right to do what you want, for you to sit or stand, for you, so they, when someone speaks for the troops, it's always very suspicious, because it's like speaking for Jesus. They're just putting what they feel like and saying, oh, it's not me, it's the troops, it's Jesus, it's right. The authorities, it's the other guy that you're offending. If it were up to me, it'd be fine. And so it seems to me that that's what's going on over here.
One of the things that I thought about this past week was the definition of a compromise that I've heard in the past, and that is, a good compromise leaves everyone angry. And at the end of a couple of the articles that I saw, there was a quote from a military person. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name or anything, but he basically said, "Do I support the mayor?" And he supported the mayor, and he understood the sentiment, but he also supported me. And I've heard that reaction from a few different sources. It's a difficult issue. It's kind of an ironic issue that you have this. You're given this freedom by people who fought and died, and you use it to what in some people's mind to disrespect that. It's not what I intended, but that's the way some people perceive it. So it's a touchy thing.
Yeah, I know right now one of the things that we're going to be covering in the next few weeks is that there's a issue going on in the Air Force where an airman refused to swear to God in his reenlistment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Which is not part of the oath anyway.
But so I mean, it goes to show that if people like yourself, do not challenge it. You know, I hate to say it, it's kind of funny. We have someone who's a soldier who's supposedly fighting for our freedoms, but he even has less rights to stand up for those very freedoms because of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So we as citizens, and this is where I take exception with the mayor talking about respecting our troops, which is we actually have an obligation to our troops to give them those rights and to defend their rights. That's our civic duty. And I just wanted to point out that what I did read about this town is that he does, in fact, enjoy popular support. It's John Reese, right?
John Reese, yes.
Yeah. And it looks to me like on many levels this is somebody that you would probably want as a mayor. And I'm just kind of curious, has he... I think we've asked, did they in general, but has he either clarified this or has he reached out to you in any way? Do you feel comfortable as a citizen reaching out to him on this?
Yeah, he's not reached out to me. Haven't spoken with him at all personally. Sorry, I forgot what the other part of your question.
Well, it was essentially basically asking, I think you've kind of answered it, has there been any interest from them in trying to clarify this matter in general? Like, okay, they haven't reached out to you per se, but it does sound like they've taken some action to address it due to the fact that it became public light. Do you feel satisfied with what they've stated? Could you also recap what they've stated that their intentions are?
Yeah, okay, to recap what their intentions are is they've passed this resolution to change the opening ceremonies to only have a moment of silence and then to say the pledge. And in both cases, they've explicitly said that no one is required to participate, to stand, to say anything along those lines. I'm satisfied with that. That's not exactly what I was asking for. It's actually a step beyond what I was asking for, because I originally went to them to ask to do an invocation, per the Greece decision. They've decided to go this way and get rid of the invocation altogether. That's fine.
I think that in a way, they moved in this way for one reason, is that they saw that they screwed up, and it was caught on video. If you had not had that video, nothing would have changed. I'm sure of it. Also, they know that you're in the right. They know they probably learned that you're associated with Freedom for Religion Foundation. They looked them up and say, "Holy cow, we better watch ourselves here." And they also knew that the Constitution was on your side. So it seems to me that they, like many religious organizations, they do the right thing after they try everything else. So I'm glad to see that that's the case. I have another question. So what are the plans now for the group? What are the plans? When is the next meeting? Are you planning to have a few groups there to test things and see if the resolution is actually being followed?
No specific plans. I mean, I'll go to the meetings now and again, just to stay involved in general. But there is an ongoing effort to, like I said in the beginning, to get into these local government meetings to do secular invocations. And in fact, this coming Tuesday is the next one. We have a member who's going to the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners meeting to do a secular invocation. So those will continue, and we also have related to that, we're working on a website which will allow people to record the information that I was originally collecting about invocations at government meetings. Through this website, you'll be able to record it and track it for whatever locality you want. So hopefully that'll be available soon.
Can you tell us a little bit about why it sounds like you've only become skeptical or at least directly involved in overt activities in the last year and a half. What is it that really impressed upon you the necessity to do this, and why do you feel it's so important to do this?
I just felt I started feeling like I wanted to be a little more involved, and it seemed like a good way to do it. Church, I didn't want to do anything I don't want to do anything to attack Christianity directly. I'm not sure there's a need for that, but we certainly have a need for maintaining the separation of church and state as codified in our First Amendment. And so it seems like a good way to go about it. I could put a little bit of effort into it and maybe make a difference, and then this happened.
Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your group. Has your group been around for a while, or is this a relatively new group?
Actually, well, before you do that, I do want to say, when I reached out to, is it David over? Yes. Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, these guys sounded like they had your back. They were not playing around. I know they were planning on doing like a sit-in at one point, before I guess stuff was clarified.
Right.
I got to say, these guys are hardcore. I mean, they're serious free speech advocates. And to follow up on David's question, can you talk a little bit about how they came about? What else are they doing? What other milestones have they had that you wanted to be involved in?
You can throw the shameless plug of the website
Absolutely.
for the group if you want.
Yeah, they do have a website at cflfreethought.org and a Facebook page at CFL Free Thought and a Twitter feed at CFL Free Thought. That's 1-800-CFL Free Thought. No, we don't have that number. But they've worked on a number of issues in the Central Florida area with respect to church-state separation. You may also have heard recently about the schools and the chaplain, the football team chaplain that they had for a high school. He actually got on Fox News, I think, for a little bit and to complain about getting kicked off as the chaplain. But it was another church-state separation issue. So things like that's an ongoing thing too. Is making sure that the schools are abiding by the rules there. Yeah.
So your group doesn't just concentrate on your town. It well, it's a city, and your city it concentrates on the whole state.
Not the whole state, but Central Florida area.
Hence the name.
Hence the name. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Sometimes, I hear names and it's just 2 blocks around, and this is Central, right here.
But right. I really was impressed talking to him. I was impressed reading your organization's blog. They came back with a very strong response, and that's something that I think is often lacking in the skeptical community. We see a lot of infighting and things on the internet. Well, there's camps of people that would be like, I would have supported him if only he had done this, but because he didn't do that, he throw him to the wolves. And these guys really went and stood up for you, and I was very impressed.
We had quite a number of people who were planning to come out to the sit-in. That was actually scheduled for next Thursday, when their next regular board meeting was. That was going to be a tricky one because it is 9/11 when the meeting was going to be. But fortunately, that's not going to be necessary now, since the situation seems to be resolved.
You could still get all those people together and just have a big party celebration.
Yeah.
Why not? So this is in very general terms. Were you after this happened and you walked away and your adrenaline started going down a little bit? Did you start thinking, gee, am I going to be hearing now from people at work or from people at my family members or other? We all have a lot of people that we come in contact on a daily basis who may not be aware that we're secular or that we are interested in this separation of church and state. And any time that anyone says anything negative about church and state separation, they see it as an attack on religion. Was this a concern of yours at any point?
I didn't really think about it in those terms.
I'm glad you didn't.
Most of the people that know about me and this work that I've started, they seem understanding. And they didn't treat it like it was an attack on religion, which I'm glad for. I mean, there's probably a couple of exceptions, but in general, I think the the reaction has been strong, but you know, nobody's cutting me off or or anything like that. So that's good.
It sounds like you do live in a really good community. It sounds like you know, the mayor, for whatever reason, got the wrong ideas about this, but it sounds like you live. I mean, there are places in this country that if someone did what you did, they would be risking bodily harm. And
in some countries, you'd be risking your life.
Some countries, you'd definitely be risking it, which is all the more tragic why we have someone saying, you know, we're defending your rights, now stand up or else. But it does sound like you live in a good-spirited community. It sounds like this is a classic example of how we would all like to see a correction of our political situations. It sounds like you're, despite the fact that they were engaged in a violation of separation in church and state, it sounds like that in the end, these politicians do want to do the right thing. In fact, that's,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why I think a lot of people, you know, they probably wanted to do the right thing in the first place and thought, and if you listen to the mayor, from my opinion, as wrong as he got it, it sounded like he was coming at it from a place of trying to do the right thing. So.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing about that. You know, the one commission member, you can actually find the entire meeting from last Friday on YouTube. But the one commissioner member who was most fervent about keeping the invocations, he came up to me afterwards and shook my hand, and I thought that was a really good sign.
So definitely not a sore loser.
Yeah.
Didn't see you as a blood-drinking atheist. So
apparently not,
good.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, fairly often that's what we want. We want to, even if we disagree on ideas, we want to make sure that we don't stop seeing people as people, that they're people. The problem that I've seen fairly often with especially the extremely religious people is that they will look at somebody, and if they don't agree religiously in the same way, they say, well, you are my enemy. I had someone this past week tell me that. You are my enemy because we don't agree on the religious views, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for this person as a person. There's no reason why we can't. I mean, we're supposed to live together in this you know, in this country and be able to share stuff.
We're down to about 1 minute.
Yeah, before we I want to make sure. I just want to say that I find you extremely humble for your achievement, and you know, I admire a lot. I think you're a great example for the people in general, for anyone in general, to show that you can do stuff, that there's no such thing as the little guy and the big guy or anything like that. If you really want to make a difference, there are ways of making a difference without having to be violent or anything like that. So I appreciate what you've done.
He just stole my thunder. And literally everything he just said, and we're down to about 15 seconds. I want to thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me.
You and the folks at the Central Florida Free Thought can have an open invitation to reach out to us with newsworthy stories that you feel that we should cover for your area. You are definitely a credit to our community. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, this is Road to Reason, Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century.